What if some of the harder survival games like DayZ and Rust were made a little bit more accessible to, say, the everyday gamer? Well, that's what Deadside seems like it's trying to do. It takes the open world survival gameplay concept that has become so popular and streamlines it with more accessible loot, some in-game events, save zones, lots of action so you don't feel like you're running for miles without seeing anything. And it also has extensive base building, crafting, weapon customization, and all the staples you would expect from this type of game. I'm actually really surprised by just how much I was enjoying this game and how little I had heard about it up until now. So let's get into it. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by the tactical extraction FPS Arena Breakout Infinite. Now, this game is extremely well reviewed and has a huge fan base on mobile, but I am excited to say that this game is coming to PC with a beta on Steam in May. You really don't want to miss this beta. Use my link below to sign up. Now, if you never played the mobile version, let me give you a little overview. With a competitive milsim-like extraction experience, the goal is simple. Dive into the dark zone, loot gear, fight other players, and survive to keep what you found. But the stakes are high. If you don't make it out, neither does your gear. And the gear is extensive. Over 30 guns and 500 attachments that can all be customized to create unique and interesting weapons. The developers are also taking the competitive nature of this game seriously and have a whole new array of anti-cheat measures in-game to report players and take out cheaters before they affect your gameplay. So what are you waiting for? Check my link in the video description to sign up for that beta in May. Registration is now open and all you have to do is sign up with your email address. And once again, thank you to Arena Breakout Infinite for sponsoring this video. So hopping into this game, it wasn't a mystery as to where Deadside got its inspirations from. DayZ, Rust, it's basically all here. Though I will say the visuals are quite impressive. You'll spawn into the game, loot some gear to help you survive, manage your hunger, thirst, and health with a variety of foods and items, and work your way up that gear totem pole until you're rocking a ghillie suit and some high-tech weapons. But unlike its competition, Deadside starts you off with, well, an actual fighting chance, and it packs enough loot and activities into the game where you're pretty much having fun the whole time and feeling like you're actually making some real progress right away. Now, on the server I was playing on, I spawned in with quite a bit of gear. Many of the servers in this game are player hosted, and those servers can offer different starting kits and also tweak how often loot is respawned, so your experience could vary from one server to the next, but most of the hosted servers seem to offer roughly the same experience. And if you wanted the official developer balanced version, you can always find an official server. But on the server I played on, I got an SMG, a knife, some healing items, ammo, and food, and just general purpose gear. It almost feels too generous if you're used to playing something like DayZ, but it also balances out in the long run. And it created a different dynamic knowing that everyone at least has a fighting chance to defend themselves, where you're not just dropping people who don't have any gear at the start. Now, most of the loot in the game will be found inside of buildings and whatnot, but one cool thing about looting is that you can actually break down gear for parts without having to put it in your inventory first. So if you happen on, let's say, a broken tactical light, you can just tap the disassemble key to break it down into crafting materials right on the floor. Same goes for clothes, which you would break down into rags that are then used for crafting and healing in a pinch. It might not seem like a giant feature, but it is a cool quality of life thing that I wasn't expecting. One of the nicer things about looting, though, is that when you find a weapon in this game, it comes with ammo next to them. This is not server dependent, it's in all the games. And what I like so much about this is that if you find something new, you generally get to just start playing with it immediately and see if it's something you want to use. And it encourages experimentation versus just hoarding ammo or materials for stuff that you know you can get more reliably, which generally leads to less interesting gameplay. And speaking of shooting at stuff, there's a ton to shoot at from NPCs, animals, and of course, other players. I actually had one of the more realistic hunting experiences in this game. When I went duck hunting and a duck flew out of some reeds after I spooked it, like that kind of experience doesn't even happen that much in hunting games alone. And of course, I blew it away with an SMG, which felt a little bit like overkill. but it is cool that the wildlife is actually interesting and fun to hunt. The weapon handling is also pretty well refined and snappy, which isn't a guarantee in these types of open world survival games. Now, Deadside also offers a third-person view if you want it, though you don't get a hipfire crosshair, so fighting in first person just generally felt a bit more tactical and like the way it was meant to be played. When it comes to fighting the NPCs, they are a bit more on the brain-dead side, and I would imagine that that's mostly server-side performance and stuff like that to keep the game more playable, but they do roam in groups and can absolutely become overwhelming as your ammo and health start to dwindle. Now, combat against other players is obviously where things get real. I got killed by some dudes rocking ghillie suits and custom loadouts like it was nothing to them. But I also never felt like I was dying for any fault other than my own. That clip of me dropping my pistol and having a knife an NPC, well, that was all commotion that happened in a mission area and was bound to attract other players who made short work of me. But had I been smarter and left when I was running low on ammo, I would have survived. Likewise, this time I got caught with my gun in semi-auto against a player with an assault rifle in full auto. I had the drop on him, but he did more DPS, and it was really my own fault. And that's a big appeal of these types of games to me, is where if you play smart, you generally can avoid getting stuck in a bad situation. Other games kind of throw you into the deep end and don't often give you a lot of choice, and I felt like I had that agency here. Also, I was able to demolish a bunch of players fighting over a loot crate with my starting SMG, so it is nice to see that you're actually not locked out of higher level fights due to your lower level gear. Now, something that I really appreciate about Deadside is it's constantly spawning in missions and events that you can interact with to get higher tier loot to earn cash faster. And while the missions are pretty basic, like supply crate drops, crashed helicopters, go here, kill this NPC, loot their gear type missions, but because they spawn dynamically and often in areas between destinations, they make for a lot of good pit stops on your way to other areas, or as something to fill your time with. It makes the world feel a lot more dynamic, as you might be on your way to do something and then get pulled off course for an event, maybe even run into some other players while it's going on. It seems basic, but again, it's executed really well and makes the game just so much more enjoyable. Now, I haven't had a chance yet to dive into the base building or really assaulting other player bases, mostly because, well, one, you can lock them just like you could in Rust, and two, they look scary AF. Considering how quickly I got messed up just roaming the wild by other players, I don't even want to imagine what kind of crazy traps await me in these bigger bases. But from the outside looking in, it's pretty obvious that the game's base building is robust enough to warrant investing some real time into it, and it's definitely something I want to check out as I play more. I'm also looking forward to the customization system. Towards the end of my play session, I got a nice M4, but it just didn't have anything on it, and I really want to see how it performs with some cool custom attachments like an ACOG and grips and all that kind of fun stuff. Basically, the game is leaving me wanting a lot more, and to also play with some friends and see how working together to build bases and assault missions and stuff plays out. I imagine pretty well. So overall, I gotta say I was really surprised by Deadside, especially considering that I hadn't heard a lot of people recommend it to me, but saw the Steam reviews were really positive, checked it out, and I'm kind of blown away by how good it is. Open world survival games inspired by, say, DayZ and Rust aren't normally my thing just because of the steep learning curves and how much time you need to really get ahead in those games. And that's not to say that they aren't good games. I genuinely appreciate them for their sort of more methodical and tactical and realistic gameplay experiences, but sometimes, and I should really say most of the time, I want a game that I can sit down and play for a little bit and feel like I accomplished something and then come back to it whenever I want, and Deadside lets me do that really well. Plus, it also appears to have enough depth and progression for longer sessions to be enjoyable, especially I would imagine when it comes to building bases and stuff like that. Of course, it's not without its faults, and it is still in early access, so who knows where it'll eventually end up, but what's here right now is pretty darn great. It has been available in early access for about 4 years at this point, and it seems like the devs have really done a lot to refine the gameplay and flesh out the content, but have also made sure to keep it from feeling overwhelming to someone coming in fresh. I'm looking forward to jumping back into it, but I'd be curious to hear if you've been playing Deadside at all and what you think about it, especially the endgame stuff. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click that like button, subscribe for more content like it, and ding the notification bell to beat that YouTube algorithm with me. And up next, check out my recent video on Gray Zone Warfare, a survival extraction shooter that takes the visuals beyond anything I've seen before. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.